The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walked this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibilities to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all of the First Peoples and the nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come. I'd like to welcome all of you to our Committee of the Whole meeting for September 9th. And Council, any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing and hearing none. Administration, any changes to the agenda?
Thank you, Chair. No changes.
Thank you, sir. Council, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Okay. Councillor Haas.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll just wait till it comes up. So I will call the question that committee adopt the agenda as presented. Please vote now. Oh, I'm sorry.
Favor.
Okay, voting by hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Next on the agenda are our community announcements. Jen, are there any community announcements tonight?
There are none this evening.
None. Thank you very much. And we're going to start off now with our delegations. Our first delegation tonight is the Hinton Historical Society. And on our agenda, that's found on page 3. We will have Margaret Schultz and Susan Roper doing the presentation.
Is there a way to make it fill up screen? Ooh, where that is. The arrows will work. One would hope. Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. You know who we are, and as previously mentioned, we are here to present on how our 2025 civic agency funding supported the Hinton Historical Society's initiatives and what future funding will support.
First, we thought it would be helpful to revisit our mandate. We exist to present and preserve Hinton's history in a way that engages and educates. Everything you see in this presentation should tie back to this mandate.
And so all of you are familiar with what the museum does. So rather than read a rather boring list of what we've done this year, we have broken our activities into 5 categories that relate to our mandate, with explanations of how civic agency funding supports them and what community members have to say about them, mostly through the survey that we ran this January. We've created some nice photo-heavy storytelling slides for you, but after our final slide, there's a series of text-heavy slides that are for your reference and any questions you may have. Then we have the boring list for you to look at, and then we will discuss how requests for future funding will carry into the future. And so to kick it off, our first example of how civic agency funding supports us is in presenting and preserving local history. The example we've chosen for this aspect of our work was our Sound the Alarm project. Hinton's emergency siren was donated to us in early 2024. A volunteer did an extensive research project to determine the history of the siren and both its general history and the culture that surrounded it in Hinton. Then we put together an exhibit that explains this history, that includes recordings of oral history interviews, and hosted an event where our volunteer shared her research. So that's a showpiece example of how the museum both preserves artifacts and makes them useful for historical education and personal connections. Now, if our staff and volunteers had to raise the dollar figure that civic agency funding represents, this kind of work would happen much more infrequently. We need to emphasize, first and foremost, that's how civic agency funding enables us to preserve local history. And as you see in the quotes, the community appreciates this. They recognize that we're here to preserve history and they like what we do.
Our next example is staffing bang for the buck. In the museum, civic agency funding multiplies exponentially. This graphic shows how it does that in relation to staffing. We could make a similar graphic about our community partnerships or about fundraising dollars. Civic agency funding creates this energy because without it, it would be tremendously difficult to fund a permanent manager position. As we are showing and have shown before, that position guarantees we have consistent oversight of projects, which greatly increases our success in getting grants and also encourages volunteers to participate at their own pace. Many survey respondents specifically mentioned staff in their quotes. I know we all appreciate the hard work Margaret has put into our collaborative museum and our community.
Number 3 is our exceptional programming. And this is where we'll talk about how civic agency funding produces consistency. So just to use the example of our school programs, those programs stay updated and in line with curriculum. Our temporary staff have effective training, and our programs would hold their own in a large city museum. And all that's because of the consistent staffing we have working with them. And that obviously holds in our adult programs, our seniors programs, our annual events, our artifact management, and so much more. That consistency that we offer and that civic agency enables us to have is really important, particularly for those educational opportunities.
The next example is contributing to Hinton's public image. This example shows how the museum works to make Hinton look good. One of the most repeated comments from our out-of-town guests is something along the lines of, Hinton is much more interesting than I expected. Or I thought this would take 10 minutes and we've been here an hour. When a town has a museum, it tells the outside world that people live in the town for the long term, care about their history, and see their home as a place to build and plan for the future. This isn't a quantifiable benefit, but it's a side effect of the museum's work that you, town council, directly benefit from. As your vision states, respectful of our past, creating our future. Civic agency funding makes this happen because it allows us to be open year-round. It helps cover those winter utility bills as well as our insurance. Our staff spend the quieter winter months creating programs for locals, keeping our policies up to date, and ensuring our organization keeps up with professional standards. Civic agency funding does not just fund staffing, it keeps the place warm and bright, telling the world that Hinton is a place to take pride in. Our survey respondents agree with this.
And last, to tie it all together, civic agency funding helps us create this center of community. One way this is shown is why people visit the museum. This is a varied list, but these are only some of the reasons that people visit the museum this year. And we consistently see that Hinton locals really feel at home in our space. For example, we got a regular visitor this summer in the form of a very small boy who had a very big teddy bear and tends to cry when his parents take him places, but he doesn't cry when he comes to the museum. I don't know why, but he feels safe there. He smiles, he runs, and he starts playing when he comes here. And that pattern holds across all ages. There's nothing an older person loves more than parking in the gift shop and telling me what I have wrong in the museum because they were there when it happened. And that allows them to contribute. There's nothing a teenager loves more than being allowing them to show their superiority over their younger siblings because they solve the scavenger hunt first. And it goes and goes for so many people who consistently feel at home in our space. And we hope our previous examples have shown you why civic agency funding is what makes that happen. We have staffing, planning, consistency, and year-round operations through that funding. And that's what makes the museum a home for locals and visitors.
So why should the town fund the museum? We went ahead and asked the community through our survey why the museum should receive funding. My favorite of these quotes, and you have several, is funding ensures accessibility, innovation, and the protection of cultural heritage for future generations. generations. That's key. Maybe it's just because my hair is going gray, but I see it as key.
We're grateful for all those community members who spoke out to pass on how they feel about our organization. And now we are going to move on into the second part of the presentation. There's your list of basically everything we did this year, and it's for your reference. I look forward to hearing any comments or questions you have. And the same goes for our visitor numbers. We've got our bar graph with the explanation of what the numbers mean and how they break down. So again, I'd appreciate your comments.
So now the rubber hits the road. This is our ask and our budget. We're requesting $65,000 in 2026. Our budget balances to zero with this grant, and the details are before you. All of these costs are essential and sensible in our operations, and there's no room to cut. Why? Reasons why we're asking. Your funding is essential to provide the core financials to make everything we've mentioned in this presentation happen. Museums must be nonprofits. There's negligible grant funding available for operations. We've demonstrated that we work hard to get funding from every avenue possible, and our staff's work multiplies exponentially. But this is only possible with this core operational funding. For cherries on top, we have good visitor numbers, exceptional programs, strong community support, and we work hard to welcome visitors to Hinton. What the funding will support, you can expect to see us carry on with our initiatives. Ones that haven't started yet are exhibit development according to the plan created via our survey, anniversary planning, a focus on long-term planning, permanency, and developing an effective 10-year milestone.
And so as always, thank you so much for having us, and we are welcoming your comments and your questions.
Thank you very much. Council, I'd like to open the floor for questions to the museum. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Just a couple of comments and then I guess a question. I have two questions actually, but one of the things, being the alternate, I've had the opportunity to fill in for Councillor Chambers a few times, and one of the things, the numbers, those presentations that you've had, they've filled the house, which I think is excellent. Sometimes when you do those community events, you only get a few, but standing a room only has been, feather in your cap for sure. So I guess the one financial question I have is I may have missed it, but do you have a capital line for capital projects? And because I know you got a very generous donation for the roof, but I'm just curious, do you have that in your budget?
Through the chair to Councillor Haas, thank you as always for your positive comments, and having you at our meetings is always very useful, and we appreciate your presence. In answer to the question about capital, no, we have a line for general repairs and maintenance, and just where the museum is at as we've continued to grow post-pandemic, our capital projects have happened kind of on an as needed basis. So when the boiler went bust last year, we had money in our maintenance budget and through the casino fund to cover that. And then, as you said, the roof was initiated by that donor who wanted to see it happen.
Okay. So if I may.
Certainly.
So this is going to be kind of an odd question, but I know you asked for 65,000. You guys run very lean. I know that you run very lean, and it's always, a tough struggle for you. So if you were to have a reasonable number that wasn't 65, what would help you feel more at ease as an organization? Yeah, I told you.
Take a breath.
I told you, but
you go first.
I'm speaking now as a board member. I would feel at ease, and I know this is not necessarily council's direction. I would feel at ease if we weren't budgeting exactly to zero.
Mhm.
I think that's foolhardy. I think there's no room in that budget for anything to go wrong, and it puts us in the position that either we're dipping into our limited reserves with old buildings, or we are coming cap in hand to request an emergency funding. I don't think that's wise. The 65,000 all has been earmarked. I think it would be prudent of us to have 75,000 for 2026 with a plan that we're matching rate of inflation to grow. We're coming up to our 10-year anniversary in 2027. We've done well. The Maddie before Margaret and Margaret have stewarded and the board have stewarded the museum to a great place. It's doing well, it's recognized, it's got excellent programs, but we don't have money to grow. We have exceptional staff. I think we've made that clear. I've made that clear in my comments. Margaret has done a great job with the intern and summer student staff, but eventually, if we aren't able to grow, we're going to be at a place where we're having to replace Margaret. You know, she will reach, and I'm don't know this is how she feels, but she has more capacity than what this role can give her. So if we're not able to grow the role, we're going to be seeing a succession of managers in and out, which means our quality will drop. So I would like to see that we've got stable funding that looks towards growth in the future. I don't think reading the comments as we come up to the election, that might not be a possibility for 2026. But I think it's something that we should be looking forward to with the new council, 2026, 27, 28. It would be great if we were presenting a 3-year budget. That's my opinion.
And I'll go back in queue, sir.
Thank you, sir. And Kristen?
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you could see my hand. So as we discussed at the Historical Society meeting, this was actually a point that was brought up, was the budgeting to zero, and what does that look like, and what's the accountable way to, look at this going forward, look at managing reserves. And we talked about the possibility of creating a bit of a reserve policy where where we could meet as the Historical Society board and talk about, what is the right number, what is responsible, what's in line with other reserves that are held by other organizations, so you aren't budgeting to that cutthroat emergency line item. I do agree that some of the bigger things have been done, and that's been wonderful. And I think the museum is in a fairly reasonable spot, but I do think future work, from the board to really look at how we kind of overarchingly, whoever's on the board in the next term, I should say we, but just look at that reserve strategy and, what is the fiscally accountable way to, grow the program in a responsible manner, look after the assets that you have, and move forward, I think is probably a prudent thing to do for sort of future advice. But I agree. I think it's been a lot of fun to see what's going on with the museum. I think you guys did a great job over the summer with the being able to get the summer staff, and the amount of stuff that you did with them, I think is pretty amazing work. A lot of great volunteer efforts went out, and I think everyone's doing a really good job. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Counselor. So I don't want to be the downer here. I really don't. I really appreciate the museum. Should you not get the full funding, and I don't want to talk about Margaret leaving because you didn't get full funding as a worst case scenario, but what would be the first cut?
Those things that we said that are new would be the first cut. So it would be, we would no, we might not be able to plan new exhibits as was requested in our survey, which we did get a very positive response to. It's not a small portion of the Hinton population that replied. So that would be cut. I think the quality of our strategic planning focus moving into the next 10 years would suffer. We might still proceed with strategic planning, but it would suffer. And then that milestone project, which we haven't identified yet, but 10 years of celebrating our history deserves to be marked with something significant, and that needs to start planning now in 2025, not in 2020, late 2026.
Yeah.
So I think those would be the things that would stop. Also, some of the extras that we saw with the funding that was given this year, I think would be hard to continue. We had 2 summer students this year because that base funding multiplied through grants. That's not a guarantee into the future. That meant that we were able to keep the museum open, how many days a week?
6 days a week
6 days a
for the
week?
first time.
Yeah. And I'm sure you saw Margaret at Canada Day, summer staff at Parks Day, or if you made it to the Catamount opening, Margaret was there as well. At Alberta Day, there were, how many cookies did you go through at Alberta?
We had 75 people come through our booth at Alberta Day, probably 60 to 65 of the craft we brought.
So
Yeah.
that was more than any other booth saw at Alberta Day. So those outreach programs, I think, could suffer
Mhm.
in the future. It's because of Margaret's perseverance that we've been able to make that base funding multiply. And without that multiplication, all those programs would disappear.
Thank you, Ms. Roper. Thank you.
May I also,
Certainly, Margaret.
just to echo that, I think as the staff, we would feel stretched thin. And yes, the depth and energy that we're able to bring to those programs would suffer. And to bring back the strategic planning, I think it's quite important for a professional museum in a town this size to have a really good strategic plan going into its second decade. And if we were not able to do that, I think that would be a shame.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you. I just have a quick question for administration first before I have a question for the presenters. Is this the only time that we're going to see this group? And I shouldn't say, will the new council during budget have another opportunity to meet with this group in regards to numbers, or is this the only time?
Through the chair to the rest of committee, when it comes to the formal presentation, this is their responsibility, just this one presentation. We will be compiling a list of all the presentations along with the asks, and we'll be compiling that into one big document for council. So certainly if the new council or budget time wants to talk more specifically about a certain group or wants more information or would like them to come in and present, again, they can request that. But as of right now, we were just planning on compiling all the necessary documentation for them.
Okay. With that, I'd like to ask a couple of questions and, moving forward. One of the things I'd also want to highlight is those summer students was one individual that came back to work here, but is in school in another province, but brought her back here. Plus, also the other summer student that was made, where we normally don't have two, was a university local person going to university, gave them an opportunity for, I believe, their first job. So there's a lot of advantages there too. So I guess my question is, being as how this may be the only time, it's on record. So what I'm kind of hearing you say, because I'm comparing this to another organization that we give operational funding, and then we also give capital funding. Would it be your opinion at this time that if you were to say receive the ask with an additional $10,000 that is capital, would that be something that would be helpful to this group? I'm sure any money, I apologize, any money, but I guess, looking into the future, would that achieve some of the things that you've been talking about goal-wise and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would. Margaret, do you have any specifics?
I don't, let's see, extra capital. Just the way we've been operating, again, in the past 4 years as we climbed out of the pandemic and even found our feet in that world and developed a strong relationship with this council. Again, so many bridges got broken in the 2020 years. We don't have a fully planned capital project sitting right in front of us.
Right.
If that opportunity was there, we would firstly approach it with a high degree of respect and care and make sure that it might just constitute that reserve line that Councillor Chambers mentioned. We would have that as a reserve, and then we would be well on our way to having an appropriate reserve account for an organization of our size. And then we would also take that space to, again, make sure we're able to develop a really good strategic plan with a capital element to it, fully identify what we can do. Unfortunately, yeah, off the top of my head, I don't think I can identify a specific thing, although the deck is sagging. The deck is sagging.
I do have one other comment on that, Councillor Ross. As we saw on the slide that demonstrated that Margaret's time multiplies and multiplies in many ways. I think that 10,000 has the potential to do that. If we were to say, have that 10,000 of capital seed money, we would be able to start searching for other grants that are capital focused and look at some of the major donors. We've doubled the number of corporate members we have this year. So I think we've got the corporate community's interest or are starting to get the corporate community's interest. And I think that having that $10,000 line would go a long way in kickstarting that fundraising so that we could take on other major capital projects.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor McGowan, you did have your mic.
No, I'm good.
You're good now? Okay, I'm seeing no one else, so I guess it's my turn. I want to tell you, every time I drive back into Hinton, back home, I see that blue sign. First thing I see is that beautiful blue sign. Then I see that train car. And at Christmas time, what a highlight to see that train car all dolled up with lights. John, you do a beautiful job. So what I do want to do is encourage every new candidate to come and visit you, to see what you do, to hear what you do, because they will be making the decision, not me. So I want to thank you for your presentation, and I want to thank you for everything you do in this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Yep, have a great day.
So we're going to get ready for our next delegation, and that will be the Art Society of Hinton. We will have Miss Denise Boutin making the presentation.
Okay. We're gonna wing it. It won't roll at all. No, that's
Oh. There we go. You guys are okay with that? Oh, I'm with that. Yep, we'll make it work.
Okay.
We got
Good thing Wendy knows what she's doing.
Oh.
Okay, I'm gonna start then. That's a tough act to follow, you guys. I'm a little bit more of a comedian, so hopefully you guys are okay with that. Sorry about this. Thanks, council, CAO, and administration. I have my colleagues here. Wendy, she's our person behind and in front of the scenes, and I have Deb working behind me, that is our president, and I am Denise Boutin, the treasurer of the dashboard. We occupy the space at 821 Switzer and manage the Performing Arts Theater of Hinton, known to many as the Path. We are pleased that you have time to listen to our appropriation requests and answer questions and information that we are going to provide. With our accomplishments this season, we are super happy with being able to bring Aaron Pritchett and George Canyon. George Canyon is coming back for the second time, so we're quite excited. We've had some really excellent entertainment with, we've got Johnny Cash coming up, we've got Jim Crochet coming up, we've had Gordon Lightfoot tributes, and the performing in the live component of this has been just phenomenal. We have new acts coming. We had Medium this year too that's coming. She's booking in for next year. She's quite excited. People walk into our theater and are thrilled to see that we have such a wonderful place in this small community. Let's see. Just go again there. So we want to just remind you that we do have all our regular events with Hinton Movies, and we have our school event, our school dance school events that come to us. We've got at least 6 nights that bring lots of little dancers and well-dressed girls and guys and parents into this facility. We're very happy that they've actually come and started using our facility as that. It's good seating for them. It's not as big as they'd like, but the space and the stage is wonderful. Hinton Movie brings in a very diverse mix of movies for our entertainment throughout the year, showing over 200 events. Break a Leg Theater, our local performing actors, bring in at least 3 to 4, and those are 4-day events. They're not just one performance. They hang out for 4 days in that theater and they make that place come alive. And our audiences do too. Spirited Foothills is a male and female choir. Then when they bring their local vocals to our community. And we have video games and little video game tournaments. So you can see there's a breakdown of use that we've got with all our user groups in there. We are the facility that brings in the local societies. We want the societies in Hinton and the performers to come to us and use that space. And that is what we do, is we provide that space in hopes that our community just takes it. The town of Hinton supports this in other ways, not just in appropriation funds. They FCSS and the town also put events on there, like Truth and Reconciliation event day and some information days and stuff like that that they hold inside the facility. Our revenue streams are, we do have renters, and those renters are our art component of the building. You guys all know that. We've got the Potters, the Quilters, and the Art Club that all rent off of rooms that they get to have for 24/7. Hinton Movies is a big component for our revenue, providing around 24,000. That's just not rental. That's also, they pay back to us some funds for use of the popper and that kind of stuff that will be maintenance on our end. We've got live and private events, which are, that's where the performers from Edmonton, Calgary, the musicians, the mediums, they all, come and ask us to book the facility, and then we sell tickets for them or assist them and, bring in our great big tech guys and Wendy and everybody and get their performance on stage. Ticket sales is a little bit different now for us. We do tend to, you're going to see a little bit of an item change in our influx of money. That was because we sell a lot of tickets for people now and or their events. So there was all that, but in the end, we pay it all back out. So it's not like it was it wasn't an ingest of revenue for us. It was just another line that kind of got, it's an in and out thing for us, but we're just trying to show that to you. We did get a grant this year for our replacing our TVs and all those components that were definitely in need since 2017. They were brand new, but technology changes and we needed to just bite the bullet and get it done. Advertisement and our janitorial, those are just everyday expenses. We've changed up some things. We have a contractor that comes in. We've just adjusted a couple things. We don't have our board members or volunteers anymore do all that work. We try. We do have sometimes that we help clean up after an event, but usually we do a little bit, and then we do have a regular janitorial person that comes in. So that's kind of our revenue income. Oh no, sorry, with that janitorial thing, I just wanted to put that back out. Yeah, everybody that comes and has an event in our facility gives us $100 to clean. They don't want to clean it up after. So that money there, that's a new line for us, is like we make money, or kind of a washout thing, but they're more than happy to pay us $100 to clean that place up after, especially if we give them popcorn. So, how that goes. So our salaries have increased just a little bit, not a lot, but there's everything goes up with that. And we do have events that we do have to carry a couple different extra people around. We are paying our tech support now and stuff, and that's kind of like a token cost. They do not charge us what they should charge us. They spend a lot of hours in that facility, and we couldn't do anything without Joel, Mike, and Randy and Kelly. Operations basically stays the same. We contract out like some of our, work, like the cleaning the seats and all those kinds of things. Building is very much the same too. Those are just replacements for what's inside, like, not to the building itself, but just the things that we're managing, like the piano and the seats and the lighting and all that kind of stuff. And that's also with equipment too. So there was a bit more spending with the equipment. We did break into our reserves this year because we have that comfort zone that we hold in there, which was our capital money, and had to use that a bit because we had major light issues go down on the stage and had a couple thousand here and some stuff on the projector too. So there was a few places that gave us a little bit of opportunity to use up that money and realize how much of a safeguard and opportunity that it is that you allow us to hold that there, and realizing that still that's a good chunk of change, but we appreciate that. Again, that asset management listing of the things that we do take care of. This is town equipment. This, it belongs to the theater, but all in essence, it is all it's owned by the town of Hinton. So it's each taxpayer and each town, person's equipment, and we are there to take care of it. So we are doing a very fine job, I believe. I hope everybody thinks so, but Wendy keeps us on top of everything, and with that beautiful piano that we have, and someday we'll have to replace it, and someday we'll have to replace that projector, but for the meantime, she keeps it humming for us. So it's great. Yeah, fingers crossed always. So anyway, We're always looking for different opportunities for funding, and our pre-show shows what's going on in our event. That pre-show runs for the movies, and it also runs in the entry to the building, shows up what's coming up next and these kinds of things. We do excuse me. We do poster swaps with local organizations, and we make sure that posters go down to the other communities where there's large, numbers of people going in and out, like the seniors home and stuff like that, where we can encourage people to come. And I apologize because, I always make you guys look for the appropriation ask that I have in my file. I make you look through every bloody page and see if it's there. And next year you'll have an extra slide. It'll be right out front. So we are asking for 68,000. That is 5,000 more than we asked for last year, but we really, really realized that after last year and so many things kind of failed in the lighting and the staging and all these kinds of things, that we definitely need to make sure we're on top of things. So it's not really it is not super adding to our reserve fund by any means, but we just realized that things are being needed replaced. So it's just kind of helping us keep going. So I think that's, did I forget anything? You can say.
We've received an uptick in return out of town acts. So the people that brought us Gordon Lightfoot, they're booking in again with that Jim Crochet event. We have quite a few actually that are coming back. They love our facility, and yeah, they can't wait to return. So.
So I think that's all I have to say. We appreciate too that being this Hinton community, and we do appreciate the involvement of the town sitting on our board too. Like, it does make a huge difference. Doesn't that mean that we have to be kept in check, but it really is a boon, and we appreciate all our past people that have sat on that board with us and the ones that we've held in our hands for the last couple of years, Trevor. But it is a good thing. I will always say that it does support. I think I'm finished. If you have any questions.
Okay, I'm going to open this up to council. Questions from council. Councillor Haas.
Thank you. I would never try to keep you all in check.
You have a hard time, I know.
That would not be a pretty picture. Anyway, first off, yeah, I'm, as the council representative on there, this is one of the hardest working boards I think I've ever seen. They do all the volunteering. So I really shout out to the community. There's a lot of great opportunity to volunteer down at the events, whether it's behind the scenes, whether it's selling, popcorn and other things, because it's hard sometimes, to get everybody, and we have to, sometimes make some sacrifices. So, so definitely, I just wanted to say that. The other thing I'd also like to add to that, and I wanted to piggyback off, we do have a lot of acts that want to come back, but we also have acts that don't happen because of the lack of participation in our communities or in our community. So I really emphasize to the community, when events do present themselves, really consider coming out and taking part in them. When you do, you really enjoy yourself, and we do sometimes as a board put our necks on the line a little bit. For example, with Aaron Pritchett and George Canyon, we have to put up $10,000 for them to come, and if we don't make enough sales, we take that hit. We took that hit with another one too. So I really encourage the community, please come and utilize the facility and see these acts. But the other thing that I want to also mention, one of our major renters is our Hinton Movies, and I know movies are struggling nowadays with all the different streaming and other options, but it's a losing movie theater would be, it would be, I couldn't imagine it not being able to go and watch a movie at a movie theater. So I really encourage, Manhattan Movies are working hard to try and offer as many opportunities to watch the movies. So I really encourage the community to please come out and take part in that, because you know, those butts in the seat is what pays those bills, you know. So I really encourage the community to do that. Plus, it helps the Hinton movies to get other movies too when they are successful. So I just wanted to plug that. I have no problem with your ask. You guys always work hard at the monies, and you know, and we have had our equipment is starting to get older and break down, and some of them is becoming obsolete too. That's the other issue that we're running into, and may at some point not be able to be fixed anymore and need to be replaced. So I'm glad for that asset, for that reserve fund. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question on asset management. Is there a projected lifespan for the modular seating?
I don't think so. That I don't think that there's a projected lifespan of that.
No, there hasn't been anything in any of the documentation
No.
Okay.
or any emails, and the company hasn't said anything to me as well about that.
No, and we've had such little maintenance on that. We've done maintenance. There's a few screws that come loose occasionally, but man, the system is rock solid. There's a couple electronic components that we've fixed over the last 2 years that, you know, just because we move it, you know, or something, but really
And there is a
nothing
maintenance
major.
check
Yeah.
on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's the only boring question that I had. But you know, I'll take a moment though. And I mean, cards on the table, friends with Wendy for a long time now, but there's no greater champion of the events and activities that hit our communities. Like Wendy is out there and always trying to get people in. So Wendy, thanks a lot. It's good.
Taking up twirling a sign.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. I just have to say, when I was part of your board, you welcome people with open arms. It didn't matter who you are cleaning toilets tonight. You are gonna be vacuuming, washing floors. The work that you guys put into it in the early years, everybody worked, and I love that. The other thing I really loved about you guys is if somebody in town was already doing it, you were not going to step on their toes. You were not going to take income away from them. And I always appreciated that. And I love your asset management. I
Thank
think
you
it's
for that. I think you helped us start that.
But congratulations on your presentation and what you guys do for our community. I don't know why I sound like I got 43 frogs in my throat, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we'll get ready for our next delegation.
Okay, thank you very much, Council.
Our next delegation will be found on page 4 of the agenda, and it'll be the Foothills Recreation Management Association, presented by Aaron Jones.
Just page down and I'll go. Okay. Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Aaron Jones. I'm here representing West Fraser, who has a large recreation program, as I think you guys know. And I'm going to be talking about that, giving you an update, and especially how it relates to FIRMA, the forest reserves and the forest management. I remember the Forest Recreation Management Association. Foothills Recreation Management Association. Is this actually going to work? Oh, there we go. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why I'm here, provide you a brief overview of FIRMA, and give you an update for where we're at with 2025, and just some of the things that we're looking at moving forward, and again, asking for your continued support. So firstly, I'm kind of new. I haven't been here to council presenting on FIRMA for probably about 3 years. Brian Hicks used to be doing that the last couple of years, and he's not anymore, and I'm managing the rec program again. And I do understand that Brian was here in 2025 in February, I believe, and he gave quite an extensive presentation to town about FIRMA. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail around FIRMA, but I will talk about it a little bit, but certainly not to the extent that Brian did, because you've heard it fairly recently. The biggest update that I have for town is that West Fraser has now contracted a person to manage this whole recreation program. And that person is me. And I actually started the recreation program back in 1999, and I looked after it for about 22 years. And I retired last year. And so, you know, I'm a kind of a good fit, I would say, right? Like I did it for quite a long time, and it's just a fun thing to do in my retirement. And they pay me for it, so even better. So, and I also wanted to say that, like, since that program started in 1999, West Fraser, you know, has been Weldwood, International Paper, a bunch of other iterations, and all through those various companies, there's just been a really, really strong support of this program. And that's through some pretty difficult times, right? Like worldwide recessions in 2008, 2009, lowest timber prices ever. But they've really stuck by this program. So they really do support it. When I started in 1999, we had 8 campgrounds and we had 7 trail systems. And in 2025 now, we have 23 campgrounds and 8 trail systems. We would have 24, except the Elk River campground burned down in the fires of 2023. I was just out there last night and it is fully burned down. So yeah, there's probably not going to be anything going there for a while. And when I did the rec program, when I worked for West Fraser for 25 years, I did it off the corner of my desk, right? So I had a couple of other main jobs that they really were interested in me doing. And my secret to doing it was really not telling them how much time it took, right? And then when Brian took it over, he did the same thing. It was kind of off the corner of the desk, and he had even less time than I did to do that. So like I said, finally, you know, management's decided really, this is a pretty high profile program that we run here, you know, 23 campgrounds, the Bighorn Trail being one of the trail systems. And it's probably makes sense to actually contract someone to do that. And so like I said, I'm doing that now. And I just started doing that in June. So that, you know, I've been doing it basically 2.5 months. What do I have here? Yeah, I just sort of said all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to give you an update on what I've been doing in the last couple of months here. First of all, I'll give you a quick overview of FIRMA, the company's rec program and the funding. So the rec program has 2 main components. It has a maintenance program. So, you know, we have to maintain all the sites that we have, and it has an improvement or an upgrade part of the program. And that's like upgrading the infrastructure we have or building new infrastructure. West Fraser is the one window manager of the program. So FIRMA has the name on everything. So when you go to all the campgrounds, it's managed by FIRMA and the rec maps that we do and all that. But we are the one window approach. So when we're working with parks, which we do quite a bit, I was in a meeting with parks for a couple hours yesterday. We're the entity that they're dealing with. So they're not meeting with town or Yellowhead County or anybody else. Fox Creek Development Association is an Indigenous owned and operated company out of Hinton here. It's not for profit, and it looks after all of the day-to-day operation of all the rec sites. So they're the ones that maintain the site, you know, clean the washing, do the reservations, take money, collect the money, all that sort of stuff. They employ 10 to 15 Indigenous persons for 5 months of the year. A good portion of that are females, which can typically, they can have a harder time sometimes getting work. And so, you know, we're quite proud of that. It's a big part of the rec program, and it's a big part of why the company supports this rec program, is because there's this huge partnership with the Indigenous people in Hinton. And again, it's a little bit tricky in Hinton. I worked in Indigenous relations for 20 something years. That was my job. So I know a little bit about what I speak. We don't have a real local band here, right? Like the nearest band office to us is Alexis or Paul. Grand Cache, the AWN up there as well. But Hinton doesn't have that. And so the Indigenous people that live here are not typically associated with a band. So they're not members of some of the, you know, the First Nations that I just noted. So yeah, we're employing them. That's a big part of the program, and that's a big part of why West Fraser does it. And then we have funds provided. So the funding is provided by West Fraser, the largest portion I'll show you. And then the Firmer membership, of which the town is one, and then the campground revenue that we collect. So all of the campground revenue goes back into the recreation program. So the Firma partnership began in 2011, you know, so that's like we're going on 15 years now. The constants during that time have been, well, obviously West Fraser, Tech, the town of Hinton, and Yellowhead County. We've had some others sort of come and go, but those have been here right from the very beginning, those entities there. Just showing you some of the funding in 2023 and 2024. Town of Hinton, as they have always done, it's been $20,000. Yellowhead County, it's 30. Tech, it's 20. West Fraser in 2023, it was 255,000. And so that was for maintenance only we're talking about. So that was $515,000 to maintain the campgrounds in 2023. And then West Fraser put in another $357,000, and we apportioned some of the campground revenue to upgrades for a total of $385,000 in upgrades in 2023. A large portion of that was the finishing up of the Bighorn Trail. So, you know, we've had the Bighorn Trail built to the top of the ridge for a number of years now, but in 2023, we built the whole thing all the way down the ridge and then down to the Cold Creek Road. And in 2024, for the Firma members, it was the same amount of funding. West Fraser, it was very similar, 254. And then again, with campground revenue, we apportioned that. So some went to the maintenance program, 124, and the rest went to upgrades for a total of 143 something in upgrades. That does not include in-kind contributions for West Fraser. So, you know, which is significant. Like we're doing all of our accounting is running all of the invoices through, and then all of the reports that have to get generated that goes into FRIA. Is FRIA, Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta? Does everyone know what that is? Or some, because I'm happy to explain it, but if not, I'll just say that, you know, that's where we're accessing the funding, the West Fraser funding. It's our dollars. We get to choose where we want to direct them, but there is some paperwork involved, and some in quotation marks, quite a lot. And all of that is in kind. I talked with Tech yesterday, as a matter of fact, because the last Brian had talked to them, they weren't sure if they were going to be contributing anything moving forward, because obviously they're winding down their operations. And really happy to hear that they're going to provide $10,000 in this year and in 2026. So that was good news. Again, now that I'm kind of, it's not a full-time job, but it's a job. And I don't have doesn't matter. I have more time to do this. I'm going to take a look at talking with the Bighorn and Westmoreland, again, the mines, and see if I can convince them to to put some money in. And the thing is that there is no, if you're a member of FIRMA, you have equal billing to everybody else. We don't have gold sponsors and silver and, you know, that sort of thing. So your logo is on all the signs, and as long as you're a member, you get recognition for that. And that means if you want recreation maps, which I know the town likes because they bring them to great trade shows, you know, there's an unlimited amount of those that we can give to you. And we put them at the Visitor Information Center, and we have them at all the campgrounds, and that has town information on it and logos. So right now, we just have a new contract with Fox Creek. So we have 3-year contracts with them. So when you're looking at those maintenance costs in 2023 and 2024, that's mostly the cost of Fox Creek. And the new contract is $432,000 and change there that you can see moving forward. And that's the minimum, and it's kind of based on occupancy. So if there's more occupants than the base amount, then we pay them more, because the more occupants there are, then the higher their costs are, sort of thing. So yeah, that's sort of the background of FIRMA and our budgeting, and, you know, kind of what it costs to run the program. We put in, you know, so like in the last 2 years, they're sort of $1.5 million into recreation around Hinton and Edson. So pretty significant. It's very popular. People love that there's free firewood, right? And it's not expensive, and it's well maintained. And of course, the new thing, you know, we're forever upgrading stuff. Sometimes we're paying for that as FIRMA, and sometimes the government is providing the infrastructure and then we're installing it, right? So fire pits is a good example of that, right? So they might provide us the fire pits, but then the labor to go and do it, we have to do it. So for 2025, I thought I'd give you an update here. I decided, like I had to decide what I wanted to do moving back in as a manager of this program. And one of the things that I'd always wanted to do, but never had the time to do, was do a really thorough inspection of all the infrastructure that is out there. So, you know, the 24, 23 campgrounds and 8 trail systems. And that's what I decided to do. So I've spent all summer going around to all the campgrounds and taking a picture and doing an assessment on every single piece of infrastructure out there. So the site marker, the fire pit, the picnic table, the signage, everything out there. And so this is kind of an example of what it looks like when it's done. This is Brown Creek. I don't know, does anybody know where the Brown Creek campground is? There you go, somebody does. It's far away, right? You're going past, you're on the trunk road, like Highway 40, going past the Brazeau River. It's sort of between the Brazeau and Blackstone. That's the furthest one that we maintain. And so, yeah, I was out there a couple of weeks ago, and I'm looking at, I'm looking at the entrance sign, the kiosks, the information on the kiosks, picnic tables, the fire pits, everything, the road, and I'm giving them a condition, and I'm taking a picture of them. And then I'm going to every campsite, every individual campsite, and I'm looking at it, and I'm taking a picture of the campsite marker, the condition of the sign on that marker, the fire pit, and the picnic table. And also I look at every tree that that could land on the campsite and what condition that tree is in. So this particular one this is a little tricky. It's actually interesting because, you go out there, you see snags, that's obvious. You want to get rid of them. You see recently dead trees, you might have red needles on that. That's obvious. It's probably not as high as risk as a snag, but you want to get rid of them. But it's these kind of trees that kind of throw you off because, I don't know if you can see that one on the left there, but it's got a hole cut in it. Right, like somebody's, I don't know how with a chainsaw, maybe, but these are what trees look like around campsites as they've had ropes tied around the nails in them, and young kids just given a hatchet for the first time of their lives, right? And so you're looking at those trees, and they certainly have a higher chance of falling over than a tree that doesn't have all that scarring. But what do? Like, this is something that we were talking with Parks about yesterday, but part of when you're running a program like this, anybody can sue you for anything at any time. And your only defense is due diligence. And, you know, this is due diligence, right? It's going out there. And so, plus I'm getting a really good inventory of, like I said, everything that's out there, which makes planning quite a bit more accurate. So yeah, coming up in the fall and the winter here, I'm going to be developing a pretty accurate, more accurate than I've ever developed in the past, plan for what we're going to be doing. And that's a proposal. It has to go to FRIA, which has to get approved. But again, we've been doing it for, 26 years. We'll be working with Parks and Fox Creek to develop that plan. And now that I'm not doing it off the corner of my desk anymore, I'd like to get the FIRMA members maybe more in the loop than they have been in the past, and like running plans by them, talking to them about, is there anything that they need? So I'll be doing that. What was my last one? Yeah, there's some issue. Yeah, so some of the issues that I'm going to go through, some of the issues right now that in my journeys through all these campgrounds in the last couple of months that I ran into, and we're probably going to be more addressing in this plan moving forward. So I talked about, danger trees. The one on the left there, that's a dead tree that has conchs on it, right? So it's pretty obviously it should be falling down. And then, like I was talking about, the one on the right there, it's more recently dead. But yeah, so there's a lot of that we're going to have to be dealing with. Fire pits was interesting to me. I didn't really know that we had fire pits out there that were installed, like that one on the left there, which is about 2 feet off the ground, which is actually better for starting fires. Like it's like defeats the purpose of a fire ring, moving the fire up 2 feet in the air, right? And then we have these old styled culverts in some of our campgrounds that were culverts, and you're really not supposed to have culverts in campgrounds anymore because of what they're treated with. And then, you had like that culvert is only about 2 inches off the ground, which again, doesn't really provide very much fire safety, right? So there was quite a bit of that I saw. I was a bit surprised by that. It wasn't only 2, I can tell you that. We also have a lot of old infrastructure. Again, I don't know if everyone's aware, but most of these campgrounds, except for the ones that West Fraser built, were built in the 60s, late 60s and 70s, right? So that infrastructure in there is, 50 years old, 60 years old. Like this here is on the wheeled group campground. The one on the top and the one on the bottom is at the Brazeau. And, I was on a call with Parks yesterday and nobody could figure out what that actually was. We think it's a concession stand that somebody might have put in there because that's kind of what it looks like, but nobody really had any idea on what it is. And it has a stove in it that's old, and like the handles falling off of it, and the shelter there it's brushing in, the shingles are falling apart. It also has this weird looking stove in it. So yeah, old infrastructure. And the other thing that's out there is, again, when they built these campgrounds such a long time ago, people didn't have 20 and 30-foot trailers, and right, they camped in tents, and you didn't mind camping 5 feet from the person beside you. But these are campgrounds that are sites that are out there right now, and people generally don't want to camp 5 feet away from people they don't know, right? So and that's just the place that you can actually picnic and camp. There's only a parking spot above that. So in that parking spot, you'd have to pitch your tent and your trailer and somehow get 2 tents and 2 vehicles. It's impossible. So that's one of the things we're going to be looking at too, is making these sites, rather than 2 crappy sites, 1 big site, or setting the site up as you're renting the site as it is, but you're paying double for it. So it's like you want to go with your buddies or your friends or your family, right? So we're going to be looking at doing that. That's some of the things that we'll be looking at doing. For 2025, I spent a lot of the summer trying to get, developing a proposal and then getting it approved by forestry lands. It's not simple anymore because of this Trail Act. A lot of this stuff we could have just done without any permission because it was in the footprint. But we had to go out there and ask to do this. And then it took about a month for them to approve it. And we just got approval last week. And so what we are going to try to do this year before the ground freezes is put a toilet in at the northern trailhead, which is the one here. It's going to be at the, within the footprint, kind of at the end, the sort of the north side of the parking lot. And we are also going to expand that parking lot, which is, this parking lot is becoming full. It's so well used now, right, on the weekends. So we're going to expand that parking lot and we're going to build along a needed outhouse there. We are going to build a new parking lot at the southern end of the trail. And we're going to put a new kiosk in there and, garbage cans and that sort of thing at the south end, so that you can now easily shuttle it from the north end to the south end. I have done it and it is a really cool ride. It's 31 kilometers and really, really fun ride. And then we're going to put a lot of signage in. So all of the signage out there is not reflecting the new trails that Himba built. So again, if you know the trails, flow down, and a Green Dragon, and I can't remember the name of the middle one. Help me, anybody? No. Shiver Me Timbers, thank you. Yeah, so those are not reflected on the map at the kiosk right now, and there's another one as well. And so we're going to be, all the Wayfinder signs are going to be upgraded, and once you get to the ridge, there's going to be some upgrades in there. So, and we work closely with Himba. Hal Jackson, who some of you might know, he's the president of Himba, right? He also is planning superintendent at West Fraser, so it's a fairly convenient to keep Himba up to speed. And yeah, the other big project that I have is trying to replace all of the signs that need replacing. But we have a lot of Wayfair signs out there, which are like green and they've been up for like 15 years and they're falling apart. And so I want to replace those with the blue ones that we have that show the turnoff to the Bighorn Trail. Those blue ones, they stand out really nice. We're going to make them bigger. We're going to put them on wooden posts rather than those metal posts. And so that's a big project. That's a big, expensive project. And then these signs down there underneath the government sign there that says the campground's operated by the Foothills Recreation Management Association. There's a lot of those signs that need to be upgraded. And some of the partners are no longer there, so some of that has to change. But the one you can see, the one on the left there, that's at Whitehorse, and you can't even read it anymore. So I'm going to get those redone, and those will be up for next year. So, so I have budgeted like $168,000 in improvements for 2025. And I do hope to do some of that, but I also recognize we didn't get approval for that washroom until late. And that was the thing that was the big thing that we had to, you have to order them. Anyone want to guess how much it costs to put an outhouse in? How much? 40. Yeah, $40,000 to put one washroom. That's not a double, that's a one-seater washroom. Yeah, so there you go. So yeah, looking forward, so like this year, we've had a couple of, well, the biggest issue we've had this year is theft. Like in the 26 years I've been around it, this is the worst year ever. It's just amazing what people will go to, the extent that they'll go to, right, to break into things. But to the point, like, they're cutting through metal vaults, they're trying to burn off boron locks, which they can't do, but then the cost of, and we have to, because they damage the lock and then no longer works. So then we have to go out there and cut the lock off, and it costs more money to do that than you ever collect in a season at that campground sort of thing. But we've had somebody figure out that if you put a fishing line with a heavy weight or a washer on it with two-sided tape, you can stick to the envelopes and then pull them up through there. So we had all of our envelopes stolen twice at the Big Berlin campground, once on the long weekend at Rock Lake, which is a 100-site campground. It's our biggest revenue campground. Hornbeck, they actually pulled the vault, the whole vault out of the ground and drove it down Highway 16. And we've had Wild Horse and Kinky broken into. So, that's thousands of dollars of revenue. And, I know that West Fraser provides the bulk of the money, but campground revenue is still like, $250,000. So it hurts us every time that happens. So we're trying to work with, we've met with Parks, like I said yesterday, we've got some initiatives there that we're trying to work through. And then just the ongoing challenge of free firewood. Really every year we reevaluate whether we want to continue with free firewood because it gets abused, people come and steal it. But so far we're it's an important part of our philosophy and we want to continue to do it. So we're still doing it. And then, like we're looking for ongoing town support. I'm hoping somebody's going to ask me, is $20,000 enough or do you want the but I'm guessing that's not going to happen. But we do believe there's a lot of benefit for the town in continuing to do this. We've talked about, the logo appears on all of our product, on the signs, on the rec maps. These rec sites absolutely bring people into this area to recreate. We've seen that in the surveys that we've done. Like I mentioned before, there's no top billing, so everyone shares the same success at the same profile, regardless of the contribution. And the Bighorn Trail is just a really great example of doing something that we've created a really good asset for the town. I don't know if everybody knows this, but like that, that came out of me. Like I wanted somewhere to ride a bike when I retired. And I wanted to buy an e-bike and I wanted somewhere to retire it. And I worked at West Fraser at the time and championed the whole thing through. And this program, the rec program, it can make things like that happen, right? There's not a lot of bureaucracy, right? So you can take something, an idea in your head, and you can bring that to fruition if you just have sort of enough gumption, basically, right? And it's rare that we can have something like that. So I think that's, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, for your presentation. Did you say you are responsible for the Bighorn Trail?
Yes. So, no. Himba is the trail manager of the Bighorn Trail.
It was your idea.
Oh yeah, my idea. Yeah, there was that trail didn't exist. There was a trail there, but it wasn't a mountain bike trail. The down trail on the Bighorn Trail is the original trail, but that 12-kilometer up trail got built in 2019 to I think 2023, 4 years.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to open the floor up to council, and we have Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. The only comment I have, and it's interesting, you're thinking with the thefts. Have you all considered it all going online? I know Saskatchewan, for example, used to put the envelopes in. That is no longer something they do. It's all online now. Some people prefer the envelopes, but it's cut down on the amount of having to police that and the theft. So is that something you're considering?
Yeah, it is. We talked about this yesterday for a couple of hours. So we want to do that whenever you can. The issue is that there's not good cell coverage, right? So it's very hard to do that. You can make reservations, you can pay, you can do all that. That's what we'd prefer. Get the money up front. But when you're, at Brown Creek or Brazeau, there's no cell coverage, or most of our campgrounds have no cell coverage. We're looking at trying to encourage people to pay through e-transfer. It's not as simple. I mean, if somebody steals something, it's got your email address on it, that can have consequences. If you put a sign up that has, this is the email, somebody can come along, put another email over top of it, and all that money gets funded into that person's email account, right? So nothing's really easy. We're going to be looking at putting up secure lights, motion sensor lights on the pay vault, so that because these people, when they're breaking in, they're doing it in the morning, like they're doing it between like 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. We're going to on a trial basis put up some security cameras, because that's the first thing the RCMP ask you when you report these thefts. So we're going to do that. We're looking at we're modifying the the vaults, so the payment vaults, so we're gonna do that. We've really asked parks, like, we're really trying to say to them, come on, you guys can design a vault that someone can't break into, like with a fishing line and a hook, right? Like, you know, like, so some of that is, but that's more long-term because they're gonna have to think about that. It's gonna take a while to do that. They are also getting hit. So Pierre Gray, it got hammered on the September long weekend. So they're having the same problem throughout the province. So. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jones, I'm not seeing any more questions coming from council. I want to thank you so much. And, oh, okay.
I don't know what happened.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Councillor McGowan.
Thanks, Counselor, or thank you, Madam Chair. You know what? It's one of those things where I think we're really lucky. I think about growing up and I think about the list that you showed of all those campsites. The reason I camp today is because my parents took me to a good number of those campsites. And because of the work that FIRMA does and the town of Hinton contributes to, those are campsites I can still take my kid to today. And I think about, especially since COVID, we've seen, again, an increase in camping, which is good. But, the problem is that we look at places like Jarvis and we look at Obed, it's getting busier and it's harder to find sites. And then, of course, we have neighbors who they'll go in and they'll reserve for as long as they can at a time these sites, and it's not available. So it's only because we have these 20 some other sites that local community members and visitors can enjoy them, So I just think it's a really important thing that we keep going in our community and contribute to. So thanks for your work. Man, keep that free wood going because it's a draw and it's always been a draw and it's deeply appreciated from those people who use it responsibly.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Councillor McGowan. I just want to say, I knew you were coming looking for money. I did not know we would get such an education. What you shared with us, I can't remember hearing all that before. So thank you very much.
Yep, pleasure.
I wish you much success in getting a double toilet. Thank you, sir, very much.
Yep.
I just want to say you're all welcome to stay for the action items. So the next thing on the agenda is our reports from administration. We'll be starting with the RCMP Civil Governance, the Regional Policing Committee. And CAO, will you be presenting that?
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I will turn that over to Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair and Council. Is it your preference that I present this report from here, or would you rather me come up? I'm okay here. Wonderful, thank you. So this report here is before you today for your first review of the proposed bylaw, which is your policing committee bylaw, and attached to that is the terms of reference. Administration today is looking or requesting direction with respect to this policing committee bylaw, and I will begin because it has been several months since this has been before you. So just to provide a little bit of background, that's also included in the report itself. So this dates back to 2024, where the government of Alberta adopted the Police Amendment Act, which was Bill 6 back in 2022, and the related regulations. Basically, the impact to us here today was with respect to policing committees. So with this new legislation, and based on the town of Hinton's population, the town was required to either participate in a regional model, a committee, or seek ministerial approval to maintain its existing municipal policing committee that they had. To proceed with that latter option, a new bylaw and updated terms of reference had to be required. And ensure that it complied with legislation. So back on February 11th, 2025, the committee provided direction to administration to seek that from the minister, and in compliance with the motion that was put forth, a letter was sent to the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services, and approval was obtained from that office and granted by the minister's office for us to proceed with our municipal policing committee. So here we are now today. So this bylaw is your first opportunity to look at this bylaw in the terms of reference. Administration has drafted what's before you here today in alignment with the requirements of the Police Amendment Act. I think it's important to point out that both the bylaw and the terms of reference have been reviewed for legislative compliance by representatives of the Law Enforcement Oversight Branch as directed by the minister. So that review was conducted and approved prior to this being put before you today. Some of the highlights with respect to this change and this policing committee and how it may look a little different moving forward is it does require citizen membership. It requires the committee to develop a community safety plan, which is going to look a little bit different. Not only will they work with the police of jurisdiction, but other agencies within the community with respect to the safety plan. And they also report on this plan yearly to yourselves, but also to the minister upon request. The committee will work with the detachment commander of the RCMP detachment here in Hinton with respect to setting and developing yearly priorities and strategies. There had been a procedure already in place prior to this where you would see the detachment commander come directly to council with this committee. It is their responsibility to work with the detachment commander to identify what the priority strategy should be for the detachment for that year when it comes to policing. Another big change with respect to this committee is it will require the committee to appoint a public complaint director, referred to as a PCD, and assist the detachment commander, the OIC of the detachment, in resolving public complaints. So there is a little bit of a local component with respect to public concerns. That's the background and really just a high level overview of this change. So in order for us to move things forward, this bylaw is brought to you today for you to review with the terms of reference. Ask me any questions, concerns that you may have. At the end of the day, what we're looking for is to seek the committee to direct this back to a regular council meeting for decision. But prior to that, of course, to answer any questions, concerns you may have. I will mention before I turn it over to any questions that there are service level implications with respect to this, mainly with respect to the committee having to produce plans and review at the request of the minister. The information that we collect and maintain will be made available to the community. I think that's very important. And further, policing committee policy manual will have to be developed. This is all new for the province. As far as Hinton goes, we're one of the leaders for our size of a community and advancing this committee. And so there is a lot of unknowns still at this point in time, but we're crossing each bridge as we need to and as required. And I will stop at that point and turn it over to any questions, concerns that anybody may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murphy. My screen is lit up, and Mr. Mayor, we'll start with you.
Thank you. And through the chair to administration, when I look at Schedule A and specifically Section 2, right at the start of our terms of reference, under committee establishment, item 2.1.1 starts off with of the member in charge. I'm curious, is that meant to read the officer in charge, or is there another role that's not defined?
Thank you through the chair to the mayor. That's a great question, and it was clarified. It is another role. The member in charge is not the officer in charge. It'll be the member in charge of, as outlined in that Article 7, which is not your detachment commander.
So can you please explain to council at this time what the member in charge actually is? What is that role? Who is it? And what are they responsible for? Who assigns them?
Through the chair to the rest of council committee, that information with respect to that member in charge is not entirely clear from the documents that have been provided to us to this date. It was clear that it is not your officer in charge. It is not the detachment commander whatsoever. But it is vague with respect to whether it is the chair of the committee or it is another role completely separate. This, again, was wording as per the legislation as provided by the province.
Can I follow up?
Certainly.
Thank you. And so this is the only reference in this document that I can find for the member in charge. Do we have any idea what the responsibilities of the member in charge might be? I noticed further in the document that the only spokesperson for the committee is the chief elected officer or chief elected official and not the chair. I'm struggling with this one a little bit.
Yes, through the chair to council. For sure, there's many questions. The policy manual that will dictate and outline all these procedures, all these policies has not been yet provided by the provincial government. We do not have that. On the platform, it does state that it's available upon request. Those requests have been made. To this date, it has not yet been received to clarify those policies, procedures as it relates to these new committees as they would like to see them set up.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh. Sorry, Councillor McGowan, did you have your mic? Because it's not reading, showing anymore.
No, I probably.
Okay, good. Okay, Councillor Haas?
Thank you. Along the same lines, so I have some or trying to wrap my head around. So if you could explain or clarify the chief elected official, who is that person and how do they become the chief elected official?
Through the chair to council. In this reference, it was clear based on what was provided to us, the chief elected official would typically be your mayor of the municipality.
Okay, can I?
And not to be confused with your CAO.
Okay.
Yes.
So if I may follow up, so when I look at the committee membership, the mayor is the chief elected official, then there will be one member of council and an alternate. That's the configuration along with 3 citizens at large and whatever administration is part of it. Is that the case?
That is correct. There's also the opportunity for the province to assign 3 provincial members to any committee. So it has to be between 3 and 7 members, 3 being your minimum, 7 being your maximum. And with those individuals kind of identified that need to be part of the committee, required to be part of the committee.
And Madam Chair, if I can have one more quick question.
Certainly, sir.
The other question I have is on the public complaint director. I'm curious as to, is that potentially going to be one of the members of the committee? Is that someone different? Is that someone part of the administration? I'm seeing from your face, there probably isn't clear direction on that, but is that the case?
Yeah, through the chair to council. It is clear based on what was provided, it can be a member of the committee, but it can be also people outside of the committee. Where we're at this point in time and dealing with specifically the RCMP who provides our policing services here, they are currently governed by a federal public complaint process. In my conversations with the detachment commander here, there has not been any communication on their side with respect to this change. And so how that's going to look with respect to this legislation is yet to be seen. And to your question is, yes, the information surrounding this position is quite limited, other than it needs to exist with very few details otherwise.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Nissen.
Thank you. And through the chair to administration, you've mentioned that the makeup of the committee will be 3 to 7 members. And as I look at committee membership, we've got the chief elected official, 1 member of council, and 3 citizens at large. I count 5 there. If the province were to appoint 3, that adds up to 8. How is that situation supposed to be handled?
Through the chair to council, great question. There is no documentation that I have seen how that would be addressed. What the province has said is that we must be between 3 and 7 with the option of them adding. And questions have been asked why that would happen in the first place. And I don't want to give an answer today that may not be completely accurate. However, it was led to believe that it's potentially due to the fact that many police detachments in rural Alberta police not only the municipality, but also the outlying jurisdiction, and whether or not there would be benefit of bridging that gap. But again, I would rather wait to receive something from the province with respect to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Counselor Haas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just one more quick question, I guess, administratively. So typically this is something of a committee if we're looking for community members that would come to an organizational meeting being October 28th of this year. Is this something that's going to be part of that, or is that going to be at a later date once we get, through the process of this? Because this is committee, it's got to come to regular yet. And then of course advertising, and plus we don't really have all the answers to the questions. So is this something that will come later, or is the plan to initiate this for the next organizational meeting?
Through the chair to members of the committee, our hope is that we can have this in place for the public members and the recruitment for the organizational meeting. If it goes to council and it passes, if we don't pass it, then it will be a little bit delayed and we'll have to just look at a separate recruitment process. But the hope is still that we can have it in time for the organizational meeting.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Haas. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And through the chair to administration, do we have a legislated timeline to have this bylaw passed and get this committee started? Or a hard deadline of any sort, even politically?
Through the chair, we'll do a quick check and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Counselor Magoon.
You know what? I'll just hold off until the until the CAO does the quick check, and I'll jump back in queue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And while we're waiting here, I'll just make a brief comment to council administration. I don't know what Councillor Magoon's planning on here, but at a very minimum, if this thing were to move forward, I would like to see a definition of the member in charge be included, even if we don't know what the definition of that is. I don't like a document where the first line I read makes me confused and I can't figure it out after that. So I'd like to clean that up if we're going to move this one forward. But at the same time, I'd probably be interested in holding off and getting some answers back from the province and having this come back to committee again. So I'll see what council has to, or committee has to put forward, but those are my thoughts at this point.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you through the chair to members of committee. So the original date for this to be in place was March 1st, 2025. There was a lot of pushback at the time when this was implemented because even the answers we have today is significantly better than what we had when these policy changes were announced. So really what the province had told us and the other municipalities is they're not firm on the date, despite them providing that March 1st deadline. And I think most communities, I think this is very confusing for everybody. And that's the reason that we're one of the first communities to be going forward with this, where a lot of, the confusion and some of the unanswered questions, there's been more and more delays, but that was the original deadline given. I know when we had talked with staff early on, they said that they weren't firm on those dates and that, they were going to come out with some more information and wait for that, which we have done. Obviously, not all the questions are solidified, but that was the date. So I would say that if we do need to take more time, knowing that we are one of the first communities to be at this stage of the game, I don't think there's going to be any big implications.
Thank you, sir, very much. And Councillor Haas.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. With that, I'd like to move that committee direct administration to return the policing committee bylaw number 2023 to a future committee meeting for further discussion. And if I can speak to it, based on what the CEO has said, I think there's some more questions that need to be answered. And the fact that we've submitted, administration has submitted those to the province and we're waiting on some clarity. I think it's wise to hold off a bit and have some clarity on some what those definitions are and what those roles are. I do think though that, looking at it initially, I'm quite pleased to see that some of the changes. There's been a lot of discussion over the years about having community involvement in policing, and I think that this gives an opportunity for some of that. So I do like that, and the fact that we also are working alongside the police, our local RCMP detachment, and coming up with a safety plan to our community. One of the things that I'm hoping that can also come from that, and maybe that's another conversation for the future, but I've seen other communities putting together task force and other things, trying to figure out how to assist in the homeless population. And I see this committee being maybe an essential part of that discussion alongside administration and council for the future. So I think that with those answers, then I'd be more inclined to go to regular, but I'm just not ready for that yet. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Mayor Nissen.
Thank you. And through the chair to administration, I have a question regarding the public complaint director. As I read this, it looks to me like elected officials, so our council member and our chief elected official, are excluded from being able to be the public complaint director. It does look like we can use administration perhaps to fulfill that role, or possibly board members. But is there any hard clarification on what the intent of the province is for who fulfills that public complaint director position?
Through the chair to the mayor, no, I do not have any further information other than what was presented here today with respect to that position, the role that they were hoping to play in this capacity. Further to your other question with respect to your concern with the language, if I may, chair, and through chair to the mayor, in the time I had since that point in time, I would like to review the Article 7 of the MPSA agreement. And because from what I just reviewed here, it does appear to me that it would have referred to the officer in charge. And that I do agree with you. That clarification is required and needed.
Thank you very much. And that was my initial thought too, was RCMP talk about themselves as members, not officers all the time. I figured that language might have worked its way through. But I will be in support of the motion on the floor right now, in part because there are a couple of roles in here that I believe are unclear. Member in charge, but also that public complaints director position. If these are roles that the citizens of the community that are applying for this board are going to be expected to fulfill, I think it's only fair to tell them that in advance before they apply. Because both of those could be big roles, and I don't actually know what they entail right now. So I'll be in support of the motion on the floor as it is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, we do have a direction on the floor. Councillor McGowan.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just seeking some additional information. And having been on the RCMP Policing Committee through a number of different iterations, in the past, my understanding was that and correct me because clearly I'm going to be missing pieces of it, public complaints were supposed to flow, I believe, through to Ottawa federally, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor McGowan. That is correct. That is the current system for all RCMP contract detachments throughout Canada, is that there's a civilian review commission where all complaints are funneled through and reported in that manner.
Right.
Correct.
And so as a follow-up, if I may, Madam Chair, with the assignment of a public complaints director, I would assume in tandem with that, because I imagine no legislation that Alberta makes can supersede the processes that are already in place. Where's that public complaints director's upward reports going? Federal or provincial?
Through the chair to Councillor McGowan, the information that literature I've been able to read is basically it's limited to that position, working with the officer in charge, the detachment commander, to resolve complaints, and that's where it ends right there. My meeting with the detachment commander was to ask pertinent questions with respect to this public complaint process. They were unable to provide me any information or any knowledge of any change that will be coming. I should mention, however, the province has created the ACERT to investigate serious allegations against police across Alberta. That's usually involving death or serious bodily injury, though.
Good. Good. I'm just going to leave that there. We can save the politics and the theatrics of politics for later. I think, sorry, and to speak to the direction or the consensus request on the floor, I'm certainly supportive of this. I think if we get a little bit more information back to committee, if there's no pending deadlines or really key dates that we're going to miss through that, I think that's just good information to seek first. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McGowan. And council, we do have a direction on the floor that committee direct administration to return the policing committee bylaw number 2023 to a future committee meeting for further discussion. Council, is there any more discussion on this? And I will wait for that to come up, and it is there, I believe. So council, please vote no. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Are there any more discussion on this topic? And seeing nothing, we will move on to our next report from administration, and that is the joint use planning agreement with Grand Yellowhead Public School Division. And CAO, will you be presenting that?
Thank you, Chair. And just as a reminder, I'll likely be using the term JUPA for these agreements throughout the as I answer the questions, but it is these agreements. The agreement that you have in front of you right now is virtually a mirror image of the JUPA agreement that we had passed with the Evergreens Catholic School Division. These agreements were a legislative change that required us to have these in place with certain stipulations. We've always had one of these agreements with the Grand Yellowhead School Division, but it was very small, and it did not, and it really only governed the joint use of the school facilities. So there's a lot of that agreement that made it over into this one, and similar concepts. They're just much more flushed out than the agreement that we had in 2011 to present. These new JUPA agreements have to address the shared use and access to facilities, funding of shared facilities and services, and the planning and acquisition of new or expanded school sites. So the agreement with Grand Yellowhead, the few big changes that we have in here is we have set minimums on our relationship with the school division, so we can ensure that there's some equity amongst the agreements and the use of each other's facilities. Established a list of the school and the municipal assets that are available for rent, including the times that they're available. The operating guidelines that ensure community and school use of the facility is accessible to the public, set processes and responsibilities to acquiring and servicing of school sites. And one of the changes is that the town, in working with Grand Yellowhead School Division, is we're going to take a more active role as the town when it comes to the programming of the facility use in the schools. So what has been happening previously is a lot of community members go directly either through us or through the school, and they will book the use. The issue that we are running into is those are more organized groups that have their own insurance, and there's a lot of steps that are required to take. By nature of us entering into this JUPA agreement, the municipality as a body already checks off all the boxes that the school division needs. So what we said is that for the more unorganized group or a group of 5 who want to use the facility for, say, volleyball on Mondays, the municipality can actually take a programming role within it, and the municipality can book it. We'll assign a head who's going to be responsible to make sure everything's, looked after, but the municipality can do the programming. That way we can book long or well in advance with the schools. We can work a little bit closer. It's not ad hoc requests coming in, and we're just able to provide what we believe is a better recreational program and a wider variety of rec programs for the community. So that was one of the big changes that the Grand Yellowhead and us had agreed to. So if there's any other questions related to the agreement, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, CAO. And Councillor McGowan.
No questions, Madam Chair, but I'll just right out of the gate, I'd like to take the recommended action that committee refer the joint use planning agreement to the next regular council meeting as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Mayor Nissen.
Thank you. And through the chair to administration, I just have a couple of clarifying questions. In the JUPA on page 6 of the agreement, section 3, item B, it mentions that the terms and conditions of this agreement shall be reviewed every 5 years, with the first such review scheduled in 2028. Now, based on the fact that this is an exact copy of our Evergreens agreement, and that was signed in 2023, I'm curious if our CAO and administration feels that we need to start the 5-year review process in 3 years because this agreement itself has taken 2 years to get to, or is that a holdover and something we want to amend?
Through the chair to members of council, I'll take a look at this, but I don't know if this is something that we necessarily, I think the 2028 date will make sense because that date is going to align with the Evergreen Catholic School Division. And I think it makes a lot of sense for us to negotiate these agreements at the same time to make sure that we're not operating off of different agreements. It just makes it administratively difficult for all the parties. So maybe it will be I'll take this back, and maybe instead of 5 years, I think we can keep a 5-year review schedule, but maybe for the first one, we'll specify that 2028 date. But I think the wording could be a little bit cleaned up, but I think we'll try and keep it as consistent as we can with the other school division.
Thank you. And back to the CAO through the chair, the wording with the plan that you just outlined is just fine to me. I think it says exactly what you just outlined, and there is a reason to make the first review a little bit earlier. Madam Chair, if I may have another question.
Certainly, sir.
Seeing nothing. The section 7, so on the next page, and then on the page slightly after that, we have 2 4-year meetings. One between the council of the municipality and the members of the division shall meet at least every 4 years to discuss. That's section 7, item B. And then if we move to section 8, item delta, we get the operating committee shall meet at least once every 4 years and may meet more frequently if required. I'm curious, I'm not aware of any meetings between council or the division or the operating committee in the last, 2 years since I've been elected. Do we know when the last time one of these meetings occurred, either with council or the operating committee, and if there's any planned in the immediate future?
Through the chair to members of council. So a direct meeting with all of council and all of the division board, to my knowledge, hasn't occurred yet. The operating committee is really just staff that meet on the operational. So I would say that we will likely, fulfill this very easily. Even working on this agreement, you could consider that a work of the operating committee, as it's really the CAO and the superintendent and or their designates. So we have been meeting with them to work with this. As soon as this agreement is done, we intend on meeting with all the other staff that are going to touch this agreement, including our programmers, our scheduling staff, the direct staff with the schools, maybe the principals or the staff that would be working directly with this agreement. just on that, the minutia of how this is going to work and how we're going to coordinate this across the two organizations. But the meeting of council and the division, once this is in place and passed by council, we will have to ensure that council meets with both divisions at least once a term.
Thank you very much, CEO Panasic. To committee, I will be voting in favor of the motion on the floor. I really appreciate all the hard work of administration to actually get this joint use planning agreement in front of us. I know it's been a long, challenging road for administration, and I think this is great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, we do have a direction on the floor that committee refer the joint use planning agreement to the next regular council meeting as presented. Is there any other discussion before I call the question? And seeing none, please vote now. And that is unanimous. Next thing on the agenda is the reporting of council, and we will start to my left with Councillor Ostashik. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. And Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Haas.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. Haven't met with the ASH board since May, but we got going again after the summer break. And so we had our meeting on Sunday. Got an update on all the things that are happening. And then I just want to also shout out again to the minor hockey group that brought in the junior hockey event, the Oil Kings and the Prince George Cougars. It was a packed arena, at least on Friday night, and it did look, I wasn't able to go to the second game on Sunday, but it looked from the parking lot pretty packed again. But I also want to shout out to the Oil Kings, the players. I've been seeing all over Facebook, all the things that they did in our community while they were here. They volunteered at the food bank. They used our gym to work out. They helped all over the community. So that was really nice to see. And I hope that minor hockey can make this a regular event for our community. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Chambers.
Thank you. Nothing to report.
Thank you very much. And Mayor Nissen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Couple of things this week. Last Friday, I was fortunate enough to take part in the soft opening of Gabby's Lunchbox, which is the new coffee shop down at the Pine Valley Lodge, run by Evergreens. It's open to the public. They're going to be doing lunch pickups. They've got in their little loop 4 15-minute pickup parking stalls. And wow, do they have some great pastries. So highly recommend checking it out, but not on a diet, that's for sure. The other thing I have for council is yesterday we did receive a letter from the pickleball group here in town, ultimately thanking us for getting the sound panels installed up at the Gerard Redmond courts, but they did mention some issues with the new surfaces starting to crack and whatnot. Now I was hoping to get that letter into correspondence this week, but it didn't happen in time. So we'll be seeing that next week, and I'm sure that next week I'll have some questions for administration around the potential options to mitigate the court issues going forward. And that is all I have for council today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And all I have to report on is after this meeting, I will be attending the Men Shed information session down at Bridges. Today I did talk to them, and there's a very large response. So I'm really happy about that. And next in line is CAO, your report.
Thank you, Chair. I do have the August operating highlights included in the package for council. And if there's any questions related to that, I'd be happy to answer.
Council, any questions to CAO's report? And Councillor Haas.
Yeah, I just have a quick question on the tax recovery property on Toker. I noticed it was sold, which is great. This was the first time we've ever done that. Any learning opportunities from that? Did it go well? Is there any changes, or did it go smoothly with putting it up for on the market?
Through to all of council, thank you for the question. There's always learnings, like you say, it's the first time that it's been done for quite some time within the community. We relied heavily on external legal, especially since it's a very sensitive situation when we didn't want any missteps. The reserve bid that council had set prior to was adhered to, and we will be able to recoup all of the costs that it has cost the municipality to carry that property.
Okay,
Funds do not go to the municipality. They must remain in a separate bank account for for 10 years.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Seeing nothing else from council, could I have a motion to go into closed session? Councillor Hawes,
I'd like to move that we go into closed session.
thank you, sir. It disappeared. We have a motion from Councillor Hawes to go into closed session. I've lost it on my screen, but could you please vote no? And it is unanimous. Thank you very much.